Hello students, welcome to my channel, and today we will discuss about the anatomy and physiology of eye. So eye is very important part of our body, organ of our body, so we will discuss it today. Okay, then what is eye? So eye is the organ of sight situated in the orbital cavity. Okay, so this is the orbital cavity on our face where eye is situated, and eye is spherical in shape. As we all know, eye is spherical in shape. What the size it is having? It is having the size 2.5 centimeter diameter, and it is occupied, the orbital cavity is occupied by adipose tissue. So what is doing adipose tissue here? Adipose tissue protect our eyes from the injury. Okay, then this is very important function of adipose tissue in our eye. Next is a bony socket built into the bones of the face and supplied by optic nerve, and that is second cranial nerve. So second cranial nerve is the nerve which is called optic nerve. And what is the function of the optic nerve? Optic nerve supply blood to the eye. So this is the diagram of the eye, which you have to remember if you want to learn the anatomy of the eye. So what is here? There is cornea, pupil, iris, ciliary body, choroid, retina, macula, fovea, optic disc, optic nerve, retinal blood vessels, sclera, suspensory ligaments, aqueous humor or aqueous chamber, which consists aqueous humor, and there is posterior chamber and anterior chamber. Next is structure of eye. So structure of eye means internally if we see the eye, there are two chambers present. First is your anterior chamber and second is your posterior chamber. So anterior chamber is consisting aqueous humor fluid, a fluid which is called aqueous humor. This is the spelling. And posterior chamber consists of fluid which is called vitreous humor or vitreous body. So this is the structure of eye. So there are three layers in the eye structure, which is called the sclera and cornea. The sclera and cornea, then choroid, ciliary body and iris. Okay, then inner nervous layer which is called retina. So we will discuss it one by one. So first is your sclera and cornea. Then what is sclera? Let me show you here. The part which you see in white color in the eye, this is called sclera. Now you can easily remember what is sclera, right? And sclera continue with the cornea. Here in this diagram you can see this is the part of sclera. Here sclera is written and this is cornea. Okay, there is cornea. So sclera continue with the cornea. This you have to remember. Let's go to the slide of sclera. So the sclera is a white part of the eye in outermost layer and posterior and lateral aspect of the eyeball, and in continue anteriorly with the cornea, which I have shown you in the diagram. It maintain the shape of the eye and give attachment to the extrinsic muscles to the eye. Okay. So what it is doing? It gives the shape to the eye and give attachment to the extrinsic muscles to the eye. If we see anatomy of the eye anteriorly, okay, if we see anteriorly anatomy, then what we will see that this sclera continue as a clear transparent epithelial membrane. The the light rays pass through the cornea to reach the retina. If a light ray passing through the cornea, then it go to the retina, and there is cells present. Two cells are present there, that is called rod cells and cone cells. Both cells are responsible for the light, and both cells are sensitive to the light, which I will tell you later. So this is the anatomical structure of sclera and cornea. Okay, next is your choroid. So what the choroid is? Choroid is the posterior part. 5-6 part is forming of the inner structure of the eye, like surface of the sclera, and it is very rich in blood vessels. So blood vessels are very rich in this part, and with that it is having the color. What is the color is having? It is having deep brown chocolate color. Okay, now light enters through the pupil and it goes to the retina, you know all. Okay, and what you don't know about this, that the light that goes to the retina is absorbed by choroid. Okay, so this is the choroid. Next is ciliary body. What is ciliary body? Let's go to the diagram section. So this is ciliary body. Here you can see this is ciliary body and this is suspensory ligament. The thread like structure is suspensory ligament. You have to remember both. We are going to discuss it. This is ciliary body. The lens is attached to the ciliary body by radiating suspensory ligament like spokes of wheel. I have shown you Now, contraction and relaxation of the ciliary muscle depend on the suspensory ligament. Okay, so this is the lens, this is suspensory ligament, this is ciliary body, and there is iris. This is the structure. Okay, okay. So the contraction and relaxation of the lens depend on what? It depend on the suspensory ligament. Next is your iris. So what is iris? Let's go to the diagram section. This is the iris. This structure you are seeing, this structure is called iris. Let's discuss this. Iris is the visible colored ring at front of the eye and extends interiorly from the ciliary body. Ciliary body lying behind the cornea and in front of the lens. It divides the anterior chamber of the eye into anterior and posterior cavities which contain aqueous humor secreted by ciliary body, and the color of the iris genetically determined and depend on the number of pigment cell present in it. So iris is the part which divide the eyes anterior part and posterior part, and what the anterior part is having aqueous humor, what the posterior part is having, that is vitreous humor. Okay, next, the color of the iris depends on the genetics, and the pigment cells are present in your eye. So if you see the eye structure of Americans, you see here the mostly brown and blue and sometimes green iris structure, and if you see like in India, there is brown and black iris structure. So it depends on the genetics and the pigment cell present in your iris. Next is lens. So what the lens is, you have also seen in the structure. This is lens, this is suspensory ligament, this is ciliary body, and there is iris. So the lens is highly elastic circular biconvex body. Okay, let me tell you one thing. Lens is the structure in our eye which is having power or capacity to vary its size. Its size can be increased, its size can be decreased, the lens can be thick, the lens can be thin at the uh, amount of light, at the it depend on the object distance. If the distance is less than 6 meter, the lens bulge out, the lens will thick. If the objects is more than 6 meter distance, and if we are going to see this, then our lens will be thin. Suspensory ligament will stretch our lens. Okay, so here that all things are written which I have told you, you can read here. The lens bend and reflect light rays reflecting into eye from the object in the visual field. It only structure in the eye which varies its thickness and therefore its reflection power to focus on the rays on the retina. So here I want to tell you one thing, like just imagine, if just imagine you are having a rubber in your hand. If you are having a rubber in your hand and if you are stretching it from both sides, what will happen? The elasticity of rubber will lose, and what will happen? The rubber thickness will become thin, it will decrease. So here what is happening, if the object is too far, the suspensory ligament will uh, stretch the lens and the lens thickness will decrease, lens become thin, and we will be able to see the image which is beyond the 6 meter. And if the image is near to the 6 meter, the lens will thick and the suspensory ligament will lag and the ciliary body will contract. Next, retina. So retina is the innermost layer. It is extremely delicate structure composed of several layers to nerve cell bodies and their axons. Lying on the pigmented layer on epithelial cells and light sensitive layer consists of sensory receptor cells, that is rod cells and cone cells. Both cells are impulsive to the light rays, but the rod cells are more sensitive. So if this is the retina, this is the innermost layer of the eye, there are cells present. There are cells present which is called rod cells and cone cells. Rod cells are more sensitive to the light and cone cells are also sensitive to the light, but not more than, but less than rod cells. Okay. So this is the structure. Here you can get a rough idea, like this is ciliary body, then ciliary muscles, then lens, then your suspensory ligaments are there, then retina is there, then choroid is there, and then sclera is there. So what the sequence of the light when we perceive the light? So just imagine the light rays are coming from the outside. These are light rays. There is cornea. Light rays goes through the cornea into the eye. there is a fluid present which is called what? Anterior fluid, which is called aqueous humor. If you are listening the lecture carefully, you can able to understand the aqueous humor. Then here is what? This is lens. There is a pupil. So light goes to the pupil after aqueous humor, then it go to the lens. Then there is a fluid present in the posterior side. What the fluid is present in the posterior side? This is vitreous humor. So light goes to the vitreous humor, then it goes to the retina, that is the inner structure of the eye. Then light goes to the retina after the reflection. Okay, after the reflection, light goes to the retina, and there is optic nerve present which takes signal to our brain, and our brain perceive the image. Now we will go for the physiology of eye. So physiology, the process involved producing the clear image in the eyes are: first is reflection of light rays, change in the size of pupil, and accommodation, that means adjustment of the lens for the near vision or distant vision. So this is the physiology which we are going to describe one by one. And first is your refraction of the light rays. So let me tell you, or let you tell to me please, that you have seen a prism in your childhood. If you have seen the prism, what is happening with the prism? There is a light coming from one source, and after the reflection, what is going? The light will scattered in 7 directions, 7 colors. That is called Vibgyor, right? So this is called refraction. When white light is broken into the colors of visible spectrum when it passes through the prism. So this we all have remembered, right? If we have remembered this, you can easily understand this principle. So this principle work on the eye also. So what happening with the eye? The light rays, the light on the retina, before reaching the retina, light rays pass through successively through, first of all, conjunctiva, then cornea, then aqueous fluid, lens, vitreous body, then vitreous body, then retina, then optic nerve, then brain. So this is the sequence. So these structures are all denser. What structure we are talking about? The fluid structure. What the fluid is? Aqueous humor and the vitreous humor. Both fluid are having denser structure than the air. And why we are talking about air? Because the light coming from outside, which is present in air, so this is denser structure. Light is going from lighter to the denser here. So it refract in the eye, and after the refraction it goes to the retina and we perceive the image. One more thing I will have to add it here. I want to add here that what the image is going to the retina is upside down, and what our brain perceive is the right image. So in this structure you have seen, if there is a lens, and there is a light refract and goes to the retina. There is a inner structure which is here, which is retina. So after refracting the lens, the light goes to the retina and we perceive the image, because here are optic nerve which take the signal to the brain, and our brain perceive the image. This is the refraction. So this is first physiology. This is the first part which we read in the physiology of the eye. Okay, so what you have to remember, that when the light image focusing on the retina, we perceive the image is very different, because the image is going on retina is actually upside down, and our brain adapt this early in the life, and so objects are perceived the right way. Next is pupil size. So what the pupil size means? Next, one more thing I want to add here, that is the size of lens. So here I will tell you the size of lens. This is the lens, and there are, what is this? If you are listening from starting, you can give answer. This is suspensory ligament. There are ciliary bodies. There is iris. So there is ciliary body. If the image is under 6 meter, the lens will bulge out. The suspensory ligament will lag, and the ciliary body will contract. If the image is more than 6 meter, then suspensory ligament will contract, and the ciliary body will relax, and the lens will become what? Thin. It will stretch, it will become thin, and we perceive the image. This is for distant vision. Okay. Next is pupil size. So pupil size means the size of pupil contribute to the clear vision by controlling the amount of light. Why it is important? Because to control the intensity of light. Okay. In bright light, pupil constrict, and in dim light, pupil dilate. So this is very important. Why it is important? Because if you go from the dim light to the very bright light, what happen? Your pupil will contract. Just imagine you are playing outside your home, and suddenly you go to your room where is the darkness. Then what happen? You will not able to see, and if there is light also, you will not able to see the object for while, some seconds, right? uh, uh, because your pupil is going to adjust from bright light to denser light. And if you are going to the very much bright light, the intensity of light can damage to your retina, and the pupil is the only one which adjusts the light and protect your retina from the damage. Okay. So there are muscles in the eye, like circular muscle, which is helping in contraction of the pupil, and there is radial muscles which help to dilating in the pupil. Next is the iris is the only one which holds the pupil. And next there are stimulation, that is parasympathetic stimulation. I am assuming that you are knowing what is parasympathetic and what is sympathetic stimulation. So parasympathetic stimulation constrict the pupil, constrict the pupil, and sympathetic stimulation help in the relaxing the pupil. Next is accommodation. So accommodation means that is, if the object is under the 6 meter, then to see that object, accommodation is required. But if the object is more than 6 centimeter, that is called distant vision. The adjustment and the lens convergence, without this you can see, you can focus on the object. So let's go to the accommodation. So for this, there are three things which are required to understand, that is constriction of pupil, then convergence, then change in the refractory power of the lens. First is constriction of the pupil. I have already tell you about this. Next is convergence. What is the meaning of convergence? So if the object is near to the eye, the greater the eye rotation needed to achieve convergence. For example, to focusing the tip of pen give the appearance of being crossed eye. So what I want to tell you here, what is the meaning of convergence? Like, if there is a home, if there is a home and you are standing here and you wanted to see this home, and if you see from one eye to the roof of the home and one to the base of the home, you are not able to see the correct image. You will have double image in your brain. if you see the if you see the tip of the home, the roof of the home, from both eyes, then only you will be see the correct image from your brain. Okay. When you see a single image from your both eyes, and when you are able to focus on a single image on your both from your both eyes, then it is called convergence. Means pointing out a image at a time. Okay. So convergence is very important to perceive the right image at a time. Next is changing the refractory power of lens. So what the meaning is this refractory power of lens? I have already told you that there are what? Suspensory ligament, ciliary body, and lens, which are having the power. The lens is having the power of its size. It vary its size. It can thick, it can thin, it can enlarge, and it can constrict also. So if the image is under 6 meter, the lens is here, the suspensory ligament will lag, the ciliary body will contract, and suspensory ligament will lag, and the lens will bulge out. Okay. The lens will bulge out. If the image is more than 6 centimeter, then the lens will thin, the suspensory ligament will constrict, this ciliary body will relax, and the lens will thin. Okay. So this is the changing the refractory power of lens. I hope you are understanding this. Next is distant vision. What is distant vision? I have told you, if the image is more than 6 meter, more than 6 meter of the range, then what our eye is doing, the ciliary muscle in the ciliary body relax, suspensory ligament will constrict and lens become thin. I have told you with the diagram also. So this is the distant vision. And for this, without adjustment of the lens or convergence of the eye, you can focus on the image. Now, function of retina. What is retina? You know, retina is the innermost layer of the eye. So image is perceiving, we are here. So what is here present? So here are present, there are cells present which are rod cells and cone cells. Rod cells and cone cells. So rod cells are the cells which are more sensitive to light, which are working in dark light, which are work in low light. Okay, and cone cells are light which are sensitive to light but not more than rod cells, and these are sensitive to bright light. When you go in the bright light, your cone cells are active. When you go in dark light, what happen, your rod cells are active. So this is the function of retina. So this is all about the anatomy and physiology of the eye. I hope you are understanding the lecture, and thank you. अब नहीं बना सकती मैं, इतना बहुत है।